usual.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong.
Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and hit thumbs up.
And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. It's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. Let's do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
You managed to achieve. Why don't you please use the plans for the David to Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Well, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about the Israel in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
You know, the region is going to a new place. Can you tell us what your future plans for Gaza, for the hostages?
It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
I'm the young girl from Israel.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because we went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
You said this week was violated, and you thought you violated anything else?
Just everybody.
Not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. Look,
I think they both violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay? I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And, you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all. And frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try it to me. Iran will never rebuild its systems. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. If you take a look at the pinpricks, and you see, that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You really are. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a
President
gutless
Trump, if
group
you
of
ever watched
people,
my channel,
and the
they
people
would
that
invite
run
you
it,
to the
nobody
White House.
knows
They
it's
would like
been
to
sold
come
so
meet
many
you and have
times.
a talk
But
about
the
a
people
lot
that
of
run
great
it aren't
ideas
ashamed.
to refund our
MSD is
Medicaid
Brian
and
Roberts.
medical
He
systems
heads
in
it.
the United
He's a
States. So
disgrace. He's a
please,
weak,
if
pathetic
you ever see
disgrace.
this President Trump, please invite me to the White House where we're still president. I have a lot of great ideas I would like to bring up to you, especially for the healthcare
Yeah,
system.
they violated, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't
It
go
was
out in
big.
the
If
first
the
hour and
load
just drop
was as big
everything
as
you
my
have on
nut,
it. So I'm
it
not
was a
happy
big
with that.
load, bigger than
I'm
my
not
nut.
happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically.
Hi, I'm Brett.
And I'm Jonathan.
This is Darla. Straight to a Fox resort, President Trump says he's unhappy with both Israel and Iran, saying both nations violated the bilateral ceasefire agreement.
The president warning Israel that any military action will go against the deal after a senior Israeli official told Fox News that they will have to retaliate with force against Iran's missiles.
So the president right now is heading to the Netherlands to meet with NATO leaders. Here's what he said right before we left. Watch.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous.
How are you? Are you glad that you see fire and
I
fire?
didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you calling to be the agreement, the new dawn in the Middle East safety, the agreement you managed to achieve? What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Well, if you're asking me about women in the Middle East, it's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new zone in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night. Is it, the region is going to a new place with these agreements. Can you talk what's the future plan for Gaza, for the hostages?
It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm the Cross of Israeli Channel Reviews.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Do you plan to speak on the violation? Are you talking about anything else?
Yeah, it's really fucked up.
You're on both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating ceasefire. So
I think
what
we
you
both
do?
violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay? I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all. And frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
Iran can rebuild its nuclear program.
Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. If you take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I gotta watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people, and the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
That Iran violated the peace agreement, the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to cease?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know, we basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
And that's what a lot of people talk about the expletive at the end, but that's he just being honest.
Furious. I had the opportunity to just talk to him before we just went on air for the 8 o'clock hour. And I said, I haven't seen him this upset in a while. What's really going on? He had just hung up with Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister, and he said that the prime minister is bringing all the planes back. I said, why are you so frustrated with Israel? And he says, because he didn't feel like it was good enough. That even though they still have some time until the ceasefire, that they essentially unloaded on Iran. I said, what about Iran as it relates to some of the forces they're still doing their program? He says they got to set a base for the country. They still got to appear to be strong. But he goes, that program is done. He said, our pilots fixed all of that when they hit their targets there. But he goes, I'm not happy with both of them, but more so Israel because he goes, it's over, it's done. The program is done.
Well, and he also said in that press conference that he's upset with Israel because Iran targeted them after the ceasefire, but it was one missile that went nowhere, he said. So for Israel to retaliate against that when nothing happened with that Iranian missile, he doesn't feel like that was in Israel's, they shouldn't have done that, he said.
I'm all for Israel hitting every target possible within those final 8 hours. They got about 100 launchers hiding under tunnels. There's other people. There's other assassinations got to take place. These nuclear scientists got to go. These higher commands got to go. They spent their entire existence trying to kill Israelis and kill us. And now, with the president's referring to it, I think he's right. I don't know if they can do it. But when you have Iran's chief nuclear scientist, Mohammed Aslami, say on Tuesday, they're going to immediately tell Weird News they're really going to start again with their nuclear program. I mean, that's like in your face to us and to Israel.
Well, we knew they were going to do that. We saw those trucks removing some of the enriched uranium out of the facilities. Mike took confirmed that, exactly. So where is that enriched uranium? We saw those 5 planes go in from China, go into Iran. Did they take enriched uranium back to China to protect it while Iran was preparing to get blasted? Where is that enriched uranium? But I have faith in this president, and I appreciate hearing him say they will never
I'm not
have
going nowhere.
nuclear facilities
But
again.
here's the other issue. They have to stop financing all their proxies. Ceasefire's great, but if you want to get to the next step, I don't know how you enforce this. Hamas can't get another dollar, Houthis can't get another dollar, and Hezbollah can't get another dollar. They did not back Iran when the chips were down. Either did Russia and North Korea, either did China. So we got to make sure that they just can't reconstitute. We're not back here in 18
But
months.
if they do, Israel has great intelligence, we have intelligence, we would know where it is, and look what our military did on Saturday. They could do that again.
Well, it's very hard to take down. What they do with Hezbollah, there's only going to be one pager operation, one walkie-talkie operation. They can't do this again. They cannot get rocketed from both sides. And Hamas has got to be finished. And in a couple of weeks, I guess they're going to look to talk and get the final hostages out. But they have no more money flowing to it right now, no more money flowing to Hezbollah. If that stays the same, then we can watch these guys wither. Lebanon could actually get Lebanon back.
Brian, you know, from an ideology standpoint, I agree with you. I agree with you that this is something that is deeply rooted in the radical Islamic ideology there in Iran, and they're never going to stop. But I do see the president points out you got to give peace a shot, because he's not only dealing with Iran, but he also has to at least appeal to the Muslim world, to the UAE, to Egypt, to Jordan, that he's trying to get a close to this. So, working a lot of different factions.
But as you know, Iran is enemies to all those countries.
100%.
They just don't come out and say it.
Because of their people.
Right.
The Ayatollah. Most of the Iranians don't like this regime, but they have a lot of power.
The rulers and the clerics.
At this moment, President Trump is working aboard Air Force One to keep Israel and Iran committed to an historic ceasefire that he brokered. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. That agreement stumbled overnight when Israel and Iran accused each other of firing missiles just after Trump had said the ceasefire is in effect. This morning, on his way to NATO, the summit there in the Netherlands, that's why he's aboard Air Force One, the president said he's out of patience with both nations.
These guys gotta calm down. Ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. Both violated it. I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all. And I'm gonna see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm gonna see.
Well, shortly after that, the president posted this on your screen. Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office confirmed he spoke with the president and that Israel would refrain from further attacks. The statement adds, President Trump expressed his immense appreciation for Israel, which achieved all of its war goals. The president also expressed his confidence in the stability of the ceasefire. U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker, will be in focus moments from now. We begin with the senior White House correspondent, Peter Doocy, who is in The Hague, Netherlands, where that NATO summit will be held later today. Peter.
Harris, good morning. President Trump's baseline throughout this conflict has been that Israel has no greater friend than the United States. But today he showed that you can still sometimes get four-letter word frustrated with your friends.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. You understand that?
A senior administration official tells us to expect two big things out of this short trip to The Hague. The president is going to push other NATO countries to revitalize supply chains to make sure there's never an issue making weapons. And he's going to push them to more than double defense spending from 2% GDP to 5% GDP. Many European partners are putting out the word they will try to do that. But the president's frustration with other countries paying less and expecting the U.S. to come and bail them out in a wartime has reached a boiling point, so he might be looking for a way out of the provision that requires all NATO members to defend any NATO member that gets attacked, called Article 5.
Are you still committed to Article 5 of NATO?
Depends on your definition. There's numerous definitions of Article 5. You know that, right? I'm committed to saving lives. I'm committed to life and safety. And I'm going to give you an exact definition when I get there. I just don't want to do it on the back of an airplane.
And that could come soon because that airplane is going to land here near The Hague in about 2 hours. Paris.
Peter, thank you. Matt Whitaker, U.S. Ambassador to NATO, is in focus now. Good to see you, Ambassador. How confident is the president that he will walk into the NATO summit with a victory of a ceasefire holding between Israel and Iran?
Well, good to be with you, first of all. You know, President Trump obviously is the leader of the free world. He is setting the tone. And if you're an adversary of the United States, you want peace. If you're an ally, you want to make sure you're a strong ally. And so that's our message here at the summit tomorrow at The Hague. But, you know, President Trump is right. These sides need to stop the fighting. President Trump wants peace across all of these conflicts, and he wants prosperity across the world. And so, you know, we're at a crucial moment, but it's all because of President Trump's leadership that we have a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. You know, and hopefully he can continue to be the peacemaker and bring all the global conflicts to an end.
I'll get to some of the goals for this summit in the Netherlands in just a moment. I do want to show you something, though. Iran launched multiple missiles against an American military base in Qatar yesterday. Qatari air defenses intercepted all but one of those missiles. Thankfully, no casualties reported. The attack was in retaliation to the U.S. strike on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities over the weekend. According to Iran, it was a strong attack, back, so on and so forth. President Trump called Iran's response weak. And one headline says the minimal response was, quote, designed as an off-ramp to conflict with the U.S., end of quote. That was in the Washington Examiner. And the president reiterated the success of Operation Midnight Hammer just this morning.
How confident are you in Iran? I think Iran is completely demolished.
I think it's been completely demolished. Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine.
Ambassador, ahead of the NATO summit, what has the president or maybe even your office been hearing from these other countries who will be represented at the NATO summit today about what's happening with the ceasefire?
Well, obviously our allies, like the United States of America, like President Trump, want peace, but we will defend our interests. You know, I think that our allies are also realizing that there are certain capabilities only the United States can bring to bear, including flying B-2 bombers halfway around the world from Kansas City, dropping a dozen bunker buster 30,000-pound bombs on an adversary and getting home safely without anybody hardly knowing that we were there in the first place. And I think that is the kind of capabilities our allies want to ally with, and that's why we're going to see this history be made tomorrow here at the summit in The Hague for NATO.
Yeah, and the world is watching, but here at home and also in Israel, I would imagine, and in Iran, people are praying that this is going to hold. The Iranian people kind of caught in the middle. One last quick one on that. So the focus has been so much on the ceasefire today. The president has said, well, you know, the Iranian people are the ones who would have to bring about a regime change. Is there any conversation, anything happening around that topic with the Iranian people today?
Yeah, we're waiting. You know, President Trump is clearly the one that's going to set U.S. policy on these terms. He's been very clear as to what he wants as a result of his bombing of Iran.
Oh shit, so for Russia, what's up?
Turn it up. And that Russia situation, Russia and Ukraine.
You're sitting there live on and playing PlayStation.
But I want to start with what the president's objectives are. I know one is to go from GDP 2%
the whole fucking time in the car. I'm sure you could
to
sleep.
GDP 5% of that for militaries there. Talk to me about that and whether or not that is really going to happen.
Yeah, Harris. We expect that all 32 NATO allies will agree to a new path. And that path, that commitment, is going to be 5% of their GDP on defense. And it is historic. It is probably one of the biggest foreign policy wins of this administration, of any administration. And then we're going to spend the time building out the capacity and the capabilities of the United States, and especially our allies here in Europe, so that they can take over the traditional defense of the European continent and allow the United States to address the challenges that we face globally from our adversaries. But at the same time, our allies want to be part of this alliance with the United States. And we at the same time need to address all of our security challenges. And so that's why we're looking for this commitment. That's why our allies are going to deliver this commitment, because it's not just about what the United States want. Ultimately, it's what they need as well. It's what their not only economies, but their societies demand. They want security, and they have to step up. For too long, Europe has been taking advantage of the American taxpayer to provide their traditional security here on the continent, and it's just that time is over. President Trump's been very clear about that, and this is the moment where they are finally going to commit to doing that. Presidents since Eisenhower have been telling Europe they need to take over their own security, and so President Trump has delivered that. But that's a familiar refrain, whether it's the nuclear program of Iran or so many other things. President Trump delivers what these promises that politicians of the past couldn't deliver.
And just real quickly, Article 5 pulls us all in together. If one NATO member is attacked, then the United States comes forth. And from what everyone has seen across the world with what our U.S. military can do, remarkably, and what our president will do, back up his word with action. Do you stay in that agreement with Article 5, or does everybody learn to defend themselves? Like, what is the metric on that?
Yeah, well, Harris, everyone talks about Article 5 and the commitment that an attack on one is an attack on all. But I remind everyone immediately that it all starts with Article 3 of the agreement, which is you need to provide for collective security, but also your individual security. And so each country needs to address their unique security needs within the alliance. And then that strength within their own countries makes us all stronger. So we have the plans in place to work together, to be interoperable, and there is a great platform here at NATO. But our European allies in Canada need to step up. For too long, they have been underspending, and now is the time, and President Trump is the one that's going to get them to finally do this.
U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker, thank you very much. An important day. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Harris.
Absolutely.
South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham for more on this. The president's senator was HOT this morning as he departed the White House from NATO. Let's just remind people of just how hot he was. Listen here. As soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that? So what did you make of what you heard the president say earlier today?
I can understand his frustration, but there's no moral equivalency between Iran and Israel. Iran wants to kill all the Jews, and Israel is saying, no, not this time around. So Iran is a fanatical religious Nazi regime. Israel is a democracy aligned with the United States, shared values, shared enemies. Israel is our friend. Iran is our enemy. I am glad we've got a ceasefire. I want to praise President Trump and his team for Operation Midnight Hammer. If you don't give him credit and the military credit, that is a problem for you. They deserve credit. This operation was flawless. It was effective more than anything else. It did obliterate these 3 sites. The pilots did a fantastic job, but so did President Trump, making a bold decision. As to the ceasefire, it's a good thing if it leads to peace. It will be a step backward if it leads to the ability of Iran to rearm and retool. And the head atomic scientist in Iran, the one who's still alive, said they're going right back to enrichment. So I'm not so sure we've solved the problem yet.
So, Senator,
Join our leaderboard competition for the chance to win a car. Win on all cylinders at Dave & Buster's.
sitting down with Barbara Walters.
I know you don't want to talk about guys and I want to push it, but how are you going to find anybody?
Place you as optimistic in this moment?
I will not be optimistic until the Iranian regime say publicly, we recognize Israel's right to exist as a nation and the Jewish people's right to live in peace with the rest of the region. When they say that, I will have a sense of optimism I don't have today. President Trump said a ceasefire will allow Iran and the region to live in peace and harmony. There can be no peace between Iran and Israel until Iran decides to change their policy, which is the regime policy of destroying the state of Israel and killing all the Jews. Until that changes, nothing really changes. The program has been decimated, but the people who are in charge will come right back at Israel. So I'm looking for regime change in this sense, for Iran to abandon its desire to destroy Israel, to recognize Israel's right to exist as a nation. That to me is not too much to ask of the Iranians.
Well, I mean, if you take a look at the history of the last 46 years, it might be too much to ask the theocracy that runs the country with the help of the IRGC.
Well, let's change the theocracy then.
Well, that's the question. Are you up for getting rid of the entire thing? And if so, what fills the vacuum in its place? Because as we've seen in some places in the world, when there's a power vacuum, it doesn't turn out very well.
Sure. Number one, I'm not advocating us invading Iran to take down the regime. I don't see American boots on the ground. What I am advocating is for Israel not to be required to go into a room of fanatical, religious Nazis and negotiate with them, and no matter what they do, the people across the table are going to kill them anyway. That's not fair to the people of Israel. That's not fair to the world at large. So regime change can come in a couple of ways. You can replace the people with folks in Iran who don't want to kill all the Jews, which I think are most people, or you can get the regime to change its behavior. Until the regime recognizes Israel's right to exist, this problem doesn't go away. So to me, a prerequisite to any negotiations after the ceasefire should be acknowledgement by Iran that they've abandoned their policy of destroying the state of Israel. They're now willing to live with Israel. They can have grievances against Israel. They can have concerns about Israel policy, but they have to abandon the goal of killing all the Jews in Israel. If they're not willing to do that, that tells you all you need to know about the ceasefire.
Okay, so we're looking at arrivals there in Netherlands. Obviously, the French president, Emmanuel Macron, is arriving.
Looking good.
Not a punch thrown yet.
So what do you expect?
My money's on his wife, by the way.
What do you expect to come from this summit?
I hope we have solidarity with NATO. To President Trump, congratulations on getting NATO to do something nobody else could do. They're going to 5% GDP on defense. It's going to be billions of dollars NATO contributes to the common need, the common defense. This is a major accomplishment by President Trump. Operation Midnight Hammer was one of the greatest operations in the history of the country. The only reason we're talking about a ceasefire is because of Donald Trump. The only reason that people are giving more to NATO is because of Donald Trump. I'm hoping that we will have a joint understanding that until Russia comes to the peace table, we're going to be harder on Putin, not easier. So President Trump said something pretty telling. You know, Vladimir, my problem is not you helping Iran. My problem is you. So, Mr. President, I have 85 senators, Republican and Democrats, that will send you a bill to allow you to put tariffs on countries that buy Russian oil up to 500% with a waiver if you like to get Putin to the table. If China and India stop buying Russian oil, then his war machine, Putin, would come to a grind and would get him to the table. So my goal is to help President Trump get Putin to the table by giving him leverage of a sanctions bill and a tariffs bill that will do the job. So that is coming to President Trump soon.
All right. Well, we will look forward to all of that and more ahead. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
President Trump in Amsterdam for a high-stakes NATO summit, fresh off a wild 24 hours testing the ceasefire he brokered between Israel and Iran. The president feeling very frustrated this morning and using some salty language as he lashed out at both countries, accusing them of violating the agreement that he hopes will lead to peace in the region.
I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on it. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
It looks like the F-bomb diplomacy worked. So far, the ceasefire between Israel and Iran has been holding steady, with no reports of rocket fire on either side. President Trump also weighing in on whether he'd like to see a regime change in Iran.
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos. So we'll see how it does. You know, the Iranians are very good traders, very good business people, and they got a lot of oil. They should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job. They're never going to have nuclear, but other than that, they should do a good job.
And now the White House and the Pentagon are pushing back on reports from the liberal media that claim Saturday's military strikes only set back Iran's nuclear program by months. Secretary Hegseth saying, quote, based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt adds, quote, this alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level user in the intelligence community. All right, guys, I want to get back to that in a moment, but Joey, I want to start with you on the bird's eye view here. So that this ceasefire, it seems to be holding, and that feels really incredible, right? We have a couple outliers from Israel and Iran, that sort of are, again, outlying from the global support for this. But the question is, how does this reshape the landscape, and do we have follow-through obligations? And keeping in mind, too, that Tammy Bruce, State Department spokesperson, earlier said the future of Iran is in the hands of the Iranian people.
Yeah, I mean, the ceasefire's holding, but it's as fragile as Tim Hall's, footage, right? It could break at any moment. But that's what we're used to, and that's kind of the par for the course. When we look at that clip of President Trump getting emotional and using, the F-bomb, when I hear that, I'm reminded of Bibi Netanyahu saying just a day before we bombed Iran, Israel's going to do what's best for Israel, and President Trump's going to do what's best for the United States. Those may be two different goals, two different paths to the goal, but doesn't mean they're opposed to each other. The truth is, Israel goes, hey, we're going to make sure we send a message with this 6 hours that we have. And Iran, quite honestly, their government is in disarray. The military leadership is assassinated. We don't know if the people that shot those last 2 rockets had any communication with anyone. I mean, that is at least a legitimate probability, if nothing else. And when President Trump is sitting there, you're going, what's best for our country, for the United States of America, is to end another war on the heels, or right before I go and speak to Europe about this, really what's going to be this other war, Ukraine and Russia. I mean, that's going to be part of the conversation. So what's best for Israel may be to regime change. Doesn't mean it's best for the United States right now in this moment. I think that's what President Trump understands for the frustration.
Dana, can you help us understand or describe the caliber of diplomacy and protective action or deterrent action that our president has engaged in?
Well, I think it is incredible, his decision-making and the collaboration with the Israelis, the operation was flawless. And I know you want to get to the intel stuff later. Like if the Israeli would say that it's obliterated and I think I'm going to take that over an anonymous source to CNN, but I also am patient enough to say time will tell. It's underground, we don't know. I do think it's a little premature to have called for a ceasefire within those immediate 12 hours after the bomb, because they have been fighting for decades, so maybe longer. Like there is the Iranians who said their goal is death to America, death to Israel. The Iranians said yesterday they still want to have a nuclear program, and President Trump had said total surrender. or else.
Yeah.
So I think ceasefire, it felt a little premature because I don't think people were ready for it. When the Iranians cried uncle, I would have said, good. Leave them there for a couple days. Like when my mom would send my sister to her room, and she would, are you ready to come out? You're not coming out yet. Because she would be in trouble. Like, I never thought. But if you think about Russia and Ukraine, it's the same. President Trump said, hey, we're going to have ceasefire. Great. And then Russia's like, well, it's going to start on Friday. So in the meantime, they're going to do all of these things. And President Trump would get mad at Russia. Then he'd get mad at Ukraine because they responded. And I think that President Trump's patience is going to be tested over and over again. However, he's there at the NATO meeting. And what other world leader is stepping up to try to help on the diplomacy, or has the military wherewithal, the courage, and the decision-making ability to say, all right, Israelis, you can get us to this point, I will do the next step. The last point I would make is, since October 7th, when the Israelis felt that they were caught flat-footed, they said, this is not going to happen again. They have constituents as well, to what Joy was saying. And they do not want to have to go to the shelters anymore every 2 days. They don't want their children to have to learn to sleep with the noise of the shelters. That's not what they want for their futures. And they're on the cusp of having something much more stable, hopefully for a longer period of time. So I understand that the patience is going to get tested for a little bit, but I also think that we could be a little bit more patient in response.
All right, Jesse, the media leak. You gutless losers, the president said to CNN, to the applause of millions of Americans. And what do you make of this leak? The New York Times trying to downplay the effects. Talk to us about the media landscape.
A lot of the other guys even put their weight in, and then they make you pay for it. So one of the things we do when it's done being cooked, it's back down to the juices that we're going to need to start out with.
We want our customers to have like wholesome, real ingredients, real products, and we don't want them to have it that's full of fillers. I see how it's made, I see what goes into it, so I feel okay for me, my family, and friends to be able to eat it. We may take a long way, but I think taking a long way is what makes the difference in the flavor and the quality of the product.
The right way, even if it's the hard way.
Dietz and Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
Another overpriced phone bill? Stop overpaying and switch us to Tello. Who are you? I'm you from the future. Make the switch. Future you will thank you. Trust me. Start saving with Tello.com.
Well, they're saying the bombs don't work. I mean, this was a 30,000-pound bomb. If these bombs don't work, then you should try this guy who leaked it for treason. Because it just tells the entire world, the people that don't have nukes, let's go to your nearest mountain range and start enriching uranium. The United States can't do anything about it. That's probably the most serious leak I've ever seen. Now, I don't even believe it, because the person who wrote it is the same journalist who wrote the Hunter Biden laptop is Russia disinformation. So to me, it sounds like another hoax. And if you have, as Dana said, the Israeli intelligence, you have the Pentagon, you have David Petraeus, the IAEA, the president, Joint Chiefs of Staff, all saying the same thing, that they have seriously degraded their nuclear capabilities, set it back years. I'm going to go with those guys. And it's funny that the same media who believed everything the Biden White House said, and they just wrote it down. Oh, Biden is sharp, write that down. The border's closed, all right, border's closed. Hunter's clean, yep, Hunter's clean. And they believed everything that White House said. So when Trump says something, they don't believe anything. All of a sudden, they don't believe anything the White House says. I don't believe that for a second. Dana makes a point about her family. I had a camp counselor. And when we fought, he would say, okay, you get one more shot, then you get one more shot in, and then you guys are done. And that's what Trump did.
Physical? You can always take a shot, like verbal. Wait, was it verbal or physical?
No, it's funny. You get a shot. You get to punch him. Not in the face, Dan. But if you did punch him in the face, then that's breaking the ceasefire. But this is what he did to the Israelis and the Iranians. And then the Iranians violated it. And then Israel came in really hard. And so Trump's trying to knock their heads together. And he's so frustrated because he wants to make this ceasefire stick. And if it sticks, then you're going to have Abraham Accords. He says the Iranians should start trading products instead of missiles. And then you get China out of the equation. Russia's already pushed back. The proxies are gone, and you can have a real region there that's not about blood. It's about money. And that's what this president's goal has always been. Life is all about. And life.
Harold, the most serious question for you. President Trump has been officially nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Do you agree that he's earned it?
We'll see. I hope he gets it, because if he gets it, that means that the next step in all this. I wasn't as bothered by him calling it the ceasefire yesterday, because I think he has an asymmetrical way of thinking and doing and listening to things, and I think he has not lost sight, and nor have I, because the reason I supported what the president did and was in support of him attacking him out several days ago was because I wanted to get the parties back to the table. The president's always said that he does not want a long, drawn-out war. The country is fatigued of it. I think the reason he rightly and smartly has not used the words regime change is because of that. I think Joey mentioned that in his opening. I'm still a believer that we still have a lot to learn about this assessment. I don't think it's a partisan thing. I think we should all step back and understand whether we delayed them 6 months or 6 years. We did the right thing by going there, but we're doing the wrong thing if we don't listen to the assessment and accept it with a degree of honesty, and for that matter, a degree of action that has to be taken afterwards. I would say the Democrats and Republicans in the Congress, I believe there's going to be some sort of classified briefing, whether it's today or tomorrow. I hope these tough questions, these follow-up questions are asked, and I hope that the Iranians know that if you want to do this the easy way, you come to the table. If you want to do it the hard way, the president and his team have shown you what the hard way looks like.
John, this is a live look, as expected, the president touching down there.
Yeah, and the person who's going to be the happiest to see him there in the Netherlands is, again, the Secretary General of NATO. I remember back when the president first visited NATO in the first term back in 2017. He was being criticized by the legacy media here in the United States for putting pressure on NATO nations to up their contributions to 2 or 3% of GDP. Jens Stoltenberg loved the idea. Suddenly a whole bunch of new money for NATO came in over the transom, and now Mark Rutte, who is the current Secretary General of NATO, is praising the president not only for the operation in Iran that you were just speaking with the congressman about, but also the fact that the NATO members are going to take a vote this week on whether or not to increase their percentage of GDP on defense spending to 5%. And Rutte is over the moon about that. So, people, the opponents of the president can, here at home, can complain about everything that he's doing, but the people who are there on the front lines where the rubber meets the road, they seem to appreciate these efforts.
You think about what a remarkable moment this is as we watch this live, and what we heard from the president this morning, obviously anger and frustration coming from the president over Israel and Iran's actions after he announced this ceasefire agreement just hours into it, John. We'll see if the president happens to stop and take questions and talk to reporters. That's always a possibility, but he will be greeted on the ground there in the Netherlands at a critical moment in all of this, John, no doubt.
Yeah, and we'll see if the ceasefire holds, as we were pointing out with Benny Gantz. And as he mentioned, that ceasefires in the early moments can be somewhat fragile. Both sides trying to get in last legs before they have to put the guns down. So we'll see if it does hold. Right now, let's bring in Cameron Cansarinia. He is the Vice President of the National Union for Democracy in Iran. Reza Pahlavi is the person who your organization supports in terms of who might take over if the Ayatollah were to fall. But before that happens, Cameron, we need to know what the situation on the ground in Iran is, because there's not a lot of communications coming out of there. What are you hearing?
Well, it's very good to be with you. And the people of Iran have been fighting against the Islamic Republic really since its inception, but most actively in the past several years. The domestic dissatisfaction with this regime is so significant, and it's growing day by day. There was a lot of talk about whether Israeli military action or American military action against the Islamic Republic, military, nuclear, and other facilities might cause some sort of quote-unquote rally around the flag effect, that people would support this regime again. And we didn't see that. What we actually see now is fear that the Islamic regime, which is collapsing, will be saved by another lifeline. And people are hoping that President Trump will take advantage of the opportunity of just how weak this regime is to support them in their fight to topple it and establish an Iran that would seek true peace, because the people of Iran know probably better than any of us that this regime really doesn't seek peace. They will not honor this ceasefire. They will continue to attack American soldiers, American allies, and American civilians. So Iranians at this moment are fearful but hopeful that President Trump sees the opportunity. They believe that he's a deal maker. They know he is, and they hope that he'll make a deal with them for a new Middle East.
Well, whether or not Iran adheres to the ceasefire, I mean, it's a fair statement that you make based on their past history, but maybe this time around will be different. As we await the president's exit from, or disembarkation, I guess you call it, from an airplane from Air Force One in the next few minutes, he had a gaggle aboard Air Force One on the way over there to Holland. And he was asked about regime change in Iran. This is what he said. Listen.
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
If there was, but no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos, and ideally we don't want to see so much chaos, so we'll see how it does.
So it sounds like what the president would like to see, at least in the near term, is a calming effect here between Israel and Iran. He has said in the past that maybe regime change would be a good thing. If the people who are in charge of Iran right now can't make Iran great again, as the president put it, there doesn't seem to be any coherent opposition movement in Iran at the moment. We know that you have Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah, here in the United States. He's been here for 45 years. We don't know how much support he has among the rank-and-file people in Iran. But the IRGC has had its thumb on the people of Iran for so long that even with Evin prison potentially now being opened up and some of those political prisoners having the chance to melt back into the populace, is there momentum at all within Iran for some kind of regime change?
Well, there absolutely is, and the president hit the nail on the head when he said, if it happens, it happens, and his tweet, of course, from 2 nights ago, that the Iranian people should take their country back, and the remarks that were reiterated yesterday morning here on Fox by Ms. Levitt, that the future of Iran, the destiny of Iran, is in the hands of the Iranian people. This is a point that I really want to drive home. What people in Iran are asking for is not another Iraq. It's not another Afghanistan. They're not asking for American boots on the ground. They don't believe that American sons and daughters, American brave men in uniform, should risk their lives to free people in another country. The people of Iran are risking their own lives. They're risking their lives every day to fight against this regime. So they're not asking President Trump to do it for them. They're not asking the United States to spend its treasure or its blood on it. They're simply asking that at this moment, when the regime is the weakest it has ever been, not to throw the lifeline. And as to the opposition, the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi has widespread support inside the country. You mentioned the IRGC, increasing even elements within the IRGC, within other elements of the armed forces in Iran, recognize just how weak the supreme leader is, just how weak this entire regime is, and they've begun to reach out to the Crown Prince, saying that they're looking for an exit strategy. They're looking for a way to get rid of this regime and open a new Iran, an Iran that will be friends with Israel and have lasting peace, friends with its Arab neighbors in the Persian Gulf, and friends once again with the United States. So what we're really talking about here is not nation building. It's not another foreign regime change war. The people of Iran are fighting the war. What they are hoping is that the United States will not back their enemy, that they will back them. They're real peacemakers. They're looking for peace with the United States. The way that we can help make America great again is by making Iran great again, and that will bring peace to the Middle East. If we can have a secular, democratic Iran,
all across America. Good morning. And right here in Chicago. Wherever we are, it feels like home.
Iran has been militarily defeated.
Iran has been militarily defeated, but it doesn't want to admit it. It expanded its strikes in Iran beyond nuclear and missile facilities on Monday, hitting government and internal security targets as well, in order to try and force Iran to acknowledge its defeat. But instead, Iran's evil regime sent out a triumphant message bragging about getting the last shot in, destroying a civilian apartment building, and murdering a few more Israelis at the last minute before a ceasefire went into effect. United States President Donald Trump had already announced the ceasefire scheduled to start at 7 a.m. Israel time, but the Iranians decided to try and get a few more barrages of ballistic missiles in, and so here in Israel, we all got the alerts on our phones starting at 5:30 a.m. Then again, at 6:09, and just as we were leaving the bomb shelters after that alert, we got one more at 6:32. When we emerged from that one, at 7 a.m., we saw the devastating blow of a hit on a residential building in the Israeli city of Beersheba, resulting in at least 4 fatalities with many more wounded. A few moments later, the Iranian regime posted a picture of the destroyed building and in Beersheba with a caption boasting about how they've gotten the last shot in. What can we say in the face of such pettiness and such evil? I think we just let it speak for itself. In any case, Israel got its own last shots in, and it wasn't against civilian apartment buildings. Reports emerged already on Tuesday morning that in the nighttime hours, Israeli strikes on Tehran had resulted in the elimination of another senior nuclear scientist as well as other strategic assets of the Revolutionary Guards. The task now is to ensure that the military victory that the IDF has won in this war does not end up being a diplomatic and strategic defeat, leaving the Ayatollah regime in Iran able to build its nuclear program and continue tormenting Israel and the entire Middle East. Welcome to Boots on the Ground. I'm your host, Yair Pinto, and together with TVN Israel's senior Middle East analyst, Mati Shoshani, we bring you all the truth about what is happening in Israel. On Monday evening in Washington, D.C., President Donald Trump made a dramatic announcement on his social media account saying that Israel and Iran had agreed to a ceasefire which would go into effect in a few hours. Neither Iran nor Israel immediately confirmed the news, and as I already told you, the introduction, Iran began launching a series of barrages of ballistic missiles. Just a few hours later, when their barrages were over, the regime sent out a ludicrously absurd announcement that they had imposed a ceasefire on Israel and the Americans. That took place after they launched a barrage of missiles on an American base in Qatar, which they said had completely destroyed that base. That last part is obviously untrue at all, as the Qatari air defenses shut down all the Iranian missiles except one, which was allowed to land in an open area, causing no damage. TVN Israel's senior Middle East analyst, Mati Shoshani.
Like, subscribe, share, thumbs up.